Steve Wilson from Grand Junction. Freedoms that we have lost, that we may never see again. And those things that we've lost, such things as freedom of speech, freedom to meet, freedom for Christians to meet and go to church. And I think it's affected our whole culture, that all at once we realize that from a group of people running the government, they could begin to tell us what to do. But the things that we've gained, well, we've gained some anxiety, emotional stress. How about obesity? How about cardiovascular issues, the stress, the things that come from not being able to go to work are immeasurable. So the object of this approach is to return to you that which you've lost with an understanding that I hope you understand. To me, it's very, very important. So the doors that we're going to go through, and I've depicted it with a horse and a rider, coming from an old farm background and a little bit of ranching. Horses were really important. And you're going to choose the one that you're going to ride off into the sunset on. And you're going to choose a path or a lighting system that opens that door. And I'm afraid that the vast majority of us have found ourselves having a blind faith approach. That means that you accept the things that are given to you without question. And then you find yourself in this dark place without having turned the light on, except for a small torch. And then you can almost hear the statement, "Can you hear me now?" We've heard that so many times. And I have fallen and I can't get up. And the other one is at my age, when I have friends of mine that are talking about this, they see the difference in what has happened in my life, in the joys that I have physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They say, if I'd only known. Well, the point is I chose a thing called trust, which means it's based in understanding, it's based in knowledge. And that symbolic approach is I chose the Menorah. And the Menorah is very interesting because you see, not only do you have a feeder which feeds it every day, the knowledge, it's a plumb line, it has a host of meanings. But each and every arm talks about something that I find myself responsible for, which is wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. These are the things that make up the light, plus good counsel and power and a fear of my Adonai. That was the lamp that I chose. And it talked about learning correct diet, understanding that we are an electromagnetic functioning people, that our immune system is built inside me, and a lot of it has to do with anxiety. But anxiety is pressed down when I understand my defense system is really capable of protecting me. And then it's my emotions. If I can control my emotions and understand this magnificent world of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and how the wavelengths and vibrations and all of these things that make up my body, if I've got them in control and I'm not throwing stuff in there that alters the wavelengths and causes confusion and causes that crazy word like, "Can you hear me now?" And we've all experienced it with our cell phones, versus the side of the coin, a road that you take where it's just a faith-based situation. And you assume that the foods that they're selling on the store are good for you. They're refined. There's a fatalistic opinion that we're constantly living with, that we have no control over what we're doing. We're giving certain thinking processes that we need to work with. These, you see, are not the world that I live in. And this is the one that I would like to talk to you about. You see, in the world of obedience, as I chose that road or that horse to ride on, and taking it from the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy, it starts talking about, if you will live by my mitzvah, which is a Hebrew word for instructions, versus the Hebrew word that we've chosen to say law from, it says, I will give you blessings in abundance, barns that will be filled. What an incredible saying that is. Enemies will be defeated. And those enemies come at us from various ways and will bless the fruit of my body. Well, that's an incredible promise that's been given. And it's one of those things that as we look at it and we ride off into the sunset, and all of us have chosen a horse to ride, and it's been altered. But retirement, my job is doing better. The stress load is even. And a decrease in disease, obesity, diabetes, heart attacks, cancer, all of these things that as we understand that they may be derived from the foods that we eat and the emotional things that we live with, could have an effect on our overall physiology. On the other side, we can choose to live by grace, accepting the fact that we really don't have to function under these given physiological and emotional laws and spiritual laws and financial laws. But he promised that if we choose not to live by those instructions, he will strike us down with boils, much like he gave the Egyptians. We'll have skin and lesions on our skin. There'll be confusion in our lifestyle, wasting disease, and the one that caught me the most was inflammation. Because you see, where there is inflammation, there is always disease and there's always fatigue. And a lot of people have got a hold of that horse and they've rode it in to watch their jobs just within days go away. Cost of insurance going through the ceiling. Retirement upside down. Stress going through the ceiling. And the diseases of obesity and cardiovascular, dementia, all of these things just coming upon them. And what we've been able to do is say, well, this is just part of life. Well, I disagree with that. And it's within that show that I want to walk you through what's taken place. First of all, from a scriptural viewpoint, it says false scales are an abomination to Adonai. And that means money scales. That means weighing things. That means an exchange. But he also goes on to say, but accurate weights are pleasing to him. And then we find this understanding. And it talks about the statements that we make. And I want to reiterate, I have fallen and I can't get up. What a crazy and funny statement that is. And the one, can you hear me now? Meaning when you put foods and thoughts into your body that disrupt these vibrations and frequencies and all of the incredible mechanisms that work within your body, you get confusion and you get breakdown. And our freedoms come from understanding and discipline, to understand the immune system, to understand how it works. What an incredible system that works in our body to protect us. And we need to understand that we have control over the air that we breathe in. And there's in elements that I will get into that talk about antiviral, that increases the functions internally. And then there's this whole thing about eating proper foods so that you don't create this junk on the inside of your body. Right now, as a culture, we're talking about cleaning everything up before it gets in, and then we're letting the most damaging of all things come into our body, which are, in fact, poor foods. This thing about we are dirty and dead on the inside, where bacteria and viruses live. And at this moment in time, we can prove that sugar is its food. And sugar is the food for cancer. Sugar is the food that takes care of your emotional, the kicker in your feel-good hormones. But at the end of that, because you don't understand that issue, you will consume all of the sugar that you can find. And it's with that world that we want to dig into and give you a freedom from that bondage of poor eating habits, poor thought processes and poor listening habits. And even along with it, one of the most incredible aspects of your physical well-being is the smell.